I just was teasing Pete Hegseth about not shaving before he came here out back there. I'll just see. That was great. It was great to see him. This is like old home week here at Turning Point USA. So the administration has Hegseth. Okay, they have Duffy. They have Judge Jeanine. Okay, Tulsi Gabbard. Right? We got all these Fox people. I'm feeling a little left out here. Like, is there anyone left at Fox at this juncture? I was thinking about so many things on my way down here today, but I was really thinking of how great is it that we have like 30-year-old technology, which, you know, we showed when we dropped those bombs in Iran, those bunker busters just did the work against what's dangerous and what's evil. How amazing is we have that? And I thought to myself, yeah, but we already have a weapon against things that are dangerous and evil. He's called Charlie Kirk. I mean, talk about a bunker buster. I mean, Kirk has been doing this for years and years and years. And look at this. This is like the greatest party going on here. And I hope everybody's ready to have a lot of fun this weekend, because you have an incredible lineup of patriots. You're patriots, but the people speaking are all doing their part. And it's just such an awesome experience to be here for just a part of it. I was also thinking about something else, especially when I saw Pete. Obviously, Pete, we got Marco Rubio, we have Scott Bessent, we have J.D. Vance. I'm not doing a straw poll. I didn't mean to do it that way. As a straw poll, it sounded like it. But they had Tony Blinken, Lloyd Austin, and Kamala Harris, okay? Do you remember poor old Tony Blinken, that first time he was sitting across from the Chinese? I think he was in Alaska. It was the first big meeting he had with the Chinese. He had to get an extra set of Depends, because the Chinese were like looking at him and saying, no, that's not how it's going to go for us at all, Tony. He was dying. And then poor old Lloyd Austin, God bless him, he was missing for 2 weeks and no one even knew. Remember, he was like getting treatment in the hospital. God bless him. But the Biden administration didn't even know he was gone. Can you imagine if President Trump just suddenly, Marco Rubio just wasn't around for 2 weeks, that would never happen, because Donald Trump actually believes that when you're here to do a job, you got to do the darn job. All right? It's called responsibility. And the responsibility is to the American people. Now, I also have something I have to acknowledge before we get into the remarks tonight, and this is very serious. I want to acknowledge that we're all standing and sitting on stolen land. The proud Tocobaga tribe, Indian tribe, lived here, hunted and gathered here from 900 AD to the early 1600s. So, tonight we should all be ashamed of ourselves, and each of us, I want you to dig deep, each of us needs to make a donation to Elizabeth Warren. Don't you hate that at every graduation speech? Okay, we're on stolen land. Okay, that is the history of the world. The whole world is stolen. Let's just establish that right now. This is such an amazing time to be alive in this country. And we get caught up in the day-to-day fights and the questions and the things that are still not resolved, and I understand that. But I really do not think that we take the time that we should take to truly acknowledge how much in 6 months Donald Trump has accomplished. Okay? Just 6 months. It's incredible. And it's not just Donald Trump. I should say, it's not just Donald Trump. It's everybody who's working for him and all of you. And the 77 million Americans who bucked the experts and, gave a middle finger to the lawfare and said, no, We actually believe in America. We're going to fight for America, and we're going to elect someone who we know will stand and battle for us. And they turned out in record numbers to say, no, you won't do this again. Think about what he's done just at the Supreme Court. His nominees, most recently, of course, he retains the authority, which we all knew he had, to cut government waste, cut government expenses that shouldn't even be forked over. So he's one big. Rubio now gets to lay off 1,300 State Department employees who should not have ever been working in the State Department. This is awesome. Now, I know what you're worried about. It's Friday. You're in a good mood. So you're thinking, well, Laura, where will all the liberals work? Where will they go? What will they do? And I understand your concern, and I get the fact that you're very upset about this tonight. But I understand there may be some job openings at a few cannabis farms in California. Just saying. And by the way, I just covered this tonight on the Ingraham angle, but another great thing about actually doing this novel thing called enforcing immigration law is that we learn about what the Democrats really are all about. We learn about what they're hiding and why. So we learn just how badly these illegal immigrant youth, minors, are exploited after they're trafficked into the United States. We learn that Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and Jimmy Gomez, congressman there, and all of these other congressmen, Nancy Pelosi, because she always cares about the children. She's always invoking the children. We now know that not only do they not care about the children, they are completely fine and complicit in subsidizing the cartels that are getting paid by the slave wages that are made in these farms. Because guess what? A lot of this money goes back to the cartels to pay the debt that these young migrant youth owe the cartels. So by allowing these agri scams to continue and these food processing plant scams to continue, guess what the Democrats are allowing for? The exploitation of children. The use of children to keep this corrupt scam of low wages and the new indentured servant class going. So they're not worried that we have kids as young as 14 years of age working 13, 14 hours a day at a cannabis farm or at a pork processing plant. They don't care about those children. They only care about the children when they can use the children to make political points. You're separating families. Because last time I checked, criminals were separated from their families every day of the week, every hour of the day, every second of the day in this country and in the Western world. But you're separating children. We care about the children. No, they do not. Donald Trump today actually talked about the children, not just the children who were tragically lost. One of the most horrific natural disasters our country has seen, which is these floodings in Texas. Not only does his heart break for them, but what we see and what we now know, beyond a doubt, is that Donald Trump cares more about protecting these kids than the liberals ever will. Ever will. $300,000 children disappeared. What do I mean by that? Well, when they come across the border, unaccompanied minors, what happens? They're in federal detention. They can only be there for 72 hours. Then what happens? Most of them show up with just a crumpled piece of paper and a number on it. The federal government doesn't have the time, right? Don't have the time to check these numbers. Who are the people? So these individuals go to criminals, other illegal aliens, One case in Florida that a grand jury here in Florida determined actually went to an individual who did time for child battery. One individual in Texas had 45 children sent to his address. What do you think happened to those kids? Donald Trump's making it his mission to locate these children, find out what happened to them, and make things right. That's the kind of president we have. Now, the good news on the economic front, I especially love this because it's so delicious, given all of the predictable drumbeat about tariffs, right? It was like, the tariffs are going to cause inflation, and they didn't care about inflation when Biden was, creating it, but now suddenly they care about inflation. The tariffs are going to cause inflation. Tariffs are going to cause a recession. Tariffs are going to cause a spike in prices. Well, what do we find out this week? This kills the media to report it, by the way. Japanese automakers announce what? They're going to raise prices? No. Japanese automakers announced this week that they are slashing auto prices for imports coming into the United States. Now, why are they doing that? Why are they doing that? They're doing that because the tariffs make them force them to be competitive. They can't pass on the cost to the consumers because we're not going to pay that, right? So they have to cut prices. That's just one of many examples. And then today, late today, it's so great on a Friday, because sometimes Fridays news cycles aren't so great, but today was great. So Scott Bessent announces, with that kind of wry smile he has, which I love, Scott Bessent announces, well, it turns out that in June of this year, we have a $27 billion surplus in the United States. Surplus. Now, I wonder why that happened. That happened because of the tariffs and the money that the tariffs brought into the United States. Now, let's go back a year when Sleepy Joe was getting ready for that debate and he was all shot up with a B12 or whatever the heck they were giving him, peppy pills that didn't kick in. So remember that last June, what was happening? A $74 billion budget deficit for the month of June. So in 1 year, with this president and this economic team, we've had a $100 billion swing to the green. That is awesome news. And it keeps getting, this is like that one of the infomercials, it keeps getting better, there's more. Okay, there's more. The Ginsu knife comes in really quickly. All right, on job creation, again, America first works. Anytime someone tells you it doesn't, it does. So for job creation, last year, jobs created in the Biden administration, only 52% went to native-born Americans, okay? 52%. It's ridiculous, right? So much of it was going to illegal immigrants or foreign workers. From January to the end of June, 100% of the new jobs went to native-born Americans. Awesome. Love it. It's so great. All right. And, I know you're sad to hear this, but foreign jobs, 550,000 of those were lost to foreign workers. That's a good thing. Like, those jobs are going to Americans now, so it's all good. And this could be the best news, or among the best news. Since the rise of Kami Mamdani, because that's good news. I mean, that is good news. In a hypothetical Senate primary matchup in Texas, the leading candidate is someone who hasn't even entered the race, the Democrat primary side, Senate race. Jazzy Crockett gets 35% of the vote. Jasmine. Now, why is that great? Because it tells us that the Democrat Party is so far left, it's left America. They're gone. So we have New York ready to embrace full-fledged communism with price controls, communes, not private property, abolish the police, all of that. If what he's saying is true, I mean, he could be like an Obama and just be kind of saying that, and he'll do kind of Obama stuff. So he could be doing a whole shell game on this. We don't really know. But we do know that young people who are traditionally calling themselves Democrats are really now socialists. And this is spreading in blue cities across the country. This is good news because it tells us they are totally out of ideas. I mean, we've seen this, right? We know how this story ends. We know how socialism ends: death, misery, suffering. And we certainly know how communism ends: the loss of freedom, the loss of real free enterprise, and obviously persecution, the end of free speech. Basically what we're seeing in Europe right now, like the end of free speech. But that's where the Democrat Party is going. So they're so bollocksed up by Trump and America First and real populism, I honestly think they don't know what to do. Do you all agree with me? They're really lost. They don't know what to do. When you see Hakeem Jeffries asked about Mamdani, and you can see he kind of is like, oh my God, this could sink us, but if I say this, it'll tick them off, and then all young people will be mad. And so all he can say is, well, we have a big tent party. We have a big tent party. They kicked the pro-lifers out of the Democrat Party how many years ago? Are there any pro-life Democrats left in the United States? I don't think so. There's a lot, while all this good stuff is happening, there is a lot, and we're not gonna like everything. There's a lot that's kind of bubbling under the surface, and I know you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to ask a few questions to all of you. How many of you are satisfied? You can clap. Satisfied with the results of the Epstein investigation? Clap. Okay, I told you to clap. You guys aren't listening. I'm not going to grade you on a curve. So I was going to get to that. How many of you are not satisfied with the results of the investigation? It looks like it's going to be, and now this is like the who's going to be off the island first, right? This is who's going to be voted off the island first. And I don't know what to believe on that. I've been around Washington long enough to know a lot of these infighting stories. A lot of them are overblown, and all these people are friends of mine. So I want to get the family back together because Lord knows we have enough on the outside coming at us. But Pam Bondi and of course Dan Bongino, who I adore both of them. I just want to say that for the record. But there's some family disagreement going on there. But I think the one thing we all have to certainly agree on is that clarity of presentation and clear expectations have to be set. So we need don't exaggerate what you don't got, and don't overpromise and underdeliver. It's probably pretty important that we remember that lesson right now. But if crimes were committed against children, and we know who was committing crimes against children, those people have to rot in jail. All right, another question. How many of you are happy that we are continuing to send weapons to Ukraine? Start clapping. I'm with you on that. How many of you are in favor of carve-outs from the concept of mass deportation for agriculture or hospitality? Are you for those carve-outs? What's shocking about, just let's focus on that for a moment. And if you've watched my show, this is kind of my issue, immigration. But the American people have been very clear on what they want, right? They couldn't have been clearer. But this is actually, they've been clear on this for decades. Americans do not want illegal immigration in the United States, period, end of story. They don't want it. And, when I grew up, 70s and 60s, I was little, but 1970s really, and, we cut our own lawn. I cut our front lawn with a push mower, emptied the bags, stuff in the woods, We cleaned our own house. It was a small house. We had family farms in Glastonbury, Connecticut. I don't recall that we had any foreign workers at those farms. My brother actually picked tobacco. If you want to know a tough job, try to pick tobacco leaves, which is what we used to have in Glastonbury. But we did all these jobs. I believe one of the most important things President Trump can do to this country, for this country, is ignore the rich donors who want to drive down wages and get everybody back to work. Everybody. Here. Do you guys agree with me that your most important lessons learned as a young person, and as a young adult, I think, were the toughest jobs and in many ways the most menial jobs? Do you agree with me? Was for me. I picked blueberries, I picked apples, I mowed lawns, I delivered newspapers, I cleaned houses, I cleaned toilets. But all of us benefit from doing the work of day-to-day life. And I think this idea that, our kids should go do this camp and that camp, that's fine. Camp is great. I went to 2 weeks for a camp once. And, my kids have gone to some camps. But I think America has to get back to first principles. Young people work for what they have. Older people should be respected, cared for, and kept close to their families, not shelved away in some facility. We should celebrate and encourage big families again, families that are vibrant, open to children, and happy for what God provides. These are simple lessons that I learned as a child. And it kind of goes back to fairness and just common sense and all the homespun wisdom we all kind of grew up with. But I truly believe that when we see the promise of just the first 6 months, Trump is just getting going, mind you, just getting going. You see the promise of the first 6 months. Think about what we, as free and courageous and hardworking and united people, God-fearing people, think about what we can accomplish. We can accomplish unbelievable things for America, because the other side, and sadly there is an other side, is interested in destruction. They're interested in tearing down our history. They're interested in making us fearful of standing up for what we believe. They're interested in attacking law enforcement and shaking the young people's faith in fundamental American institutions. We must not let that happen. We cannot let that happen. From how we treat our police, ICE, judges, congressmen, senators, doctors, everyone who has earned his or her right to have a profession or to have a job. Treat people with respect. We must get back to that. People say that, sometimes it feels like, we're in the end times. And look, if you've traveled lately on a Spirit Airlines flight, you probably agree with me. The end times can be here. Don't you love those fights on the internet? Like, compiling the fights on Spirit Airlines, that is just a full-time profession. But it does seem like sometimes we've just lost our way, right? The way people dress, the way they speak, the way they talk to each other in front of children. What we celebrate as normal. But it's really not. I mean, every generation has to fight and stand up all anew for what is good and what is beautiful and what is correct and what is America, for our history, for the truth, for understanding. I mean, we all have to do it. I mean, it's not like no one gets out of here with an easy go. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible doesn't say, you're going to be born and life is going to be easy. What we believe, and even if you don't believe in the Bible, what we believe is most of life is a struggle. But being the happy warrior that President Reagan, for whom I used to work, actually taught us is really the right way to go. And do you notice how generally really happy Donald Trump is now? You notice? He has a different air about him than he did in his first term. I think the brush with death, I think beating the lawfare, I think winning against all these forces, from DAs to prosecutors to the Democrats to the George Soros to all of that he was up against. I mean, he stared down all of them and said, "Oh, no, you won't. Oh, no, you won't." Because in the end, he knew that he was right about these fundamental ideas and they were wrong. And he knew that he would, I really think he knew. And I remember first talking to him, and I'm not betraying any confidences, after he left office, maybe it was a year after he left office, and it was 2021, into 2021. He was absolutely certain, without a doubt, that he was going to be president again. I don't even think he had a scintilla of a doubt. And I was talking with him, I was like, wow, that's pretty bold. And he said, no, it's just, what we did was amazing. And we're not finished. So just as he showed us when he went back to Butler, how great was that when he went back to Butler and did the speech? When he went back, he's like, remember he stood up on the podium? I was there. It was a beautiful October day. I interviewed him afterward. When he walked out, and Elon was there, back when the halcyon days of Elon. But President Trump walks out, picks up his speech, and he said, "As I was saying." Who else is going to do that? So the next few years, these are the good old days. Remember these times. Remember what you've learned about the so-called experts, how wrong they were about Donald Trump, how wrong they were about his economy, how wrong they were about the real threats that we should be focusing on, climate change or the trans issues. They were all wrong. And on most of these issues, you were right and he was right. And we take lessons from this as we go forward. Think for yourself, ignore the herd mentality, the conventional wisdom that they try to shove down your throat every day, whether it's in movies, they've even ruined Superman, I understand, in movies, or on the internet, or by some ridiculous professor. Don't go along with the cool crowd. Because I hate to tell you, you guys are the cool crowd. You're it. When we look back on 2024, and when historians, and they will write about this, they're not going to have much to say about old Joe Biden, except maybe the beach chair won his last encounter with Biden. They're not going to have much to say, like he dropped out after one debate. I'm talking about 100 years from now. Biden will be forgotten. Obama he was kind of charismatic, hope and change, first African-American president. They'll remember that. Reagan will be remembered. But they are going to remember this moment and this era as the era and the movement that reclaimed America. Remember this. Everybody, thank you so much. Great to see you. Have an amazing time. And thank you for watching. See you guys.